This Brimstone patch is absolutely massive. In terms of all the things that have been added and changed to the game, there's literally too much to go over in this video. In terms of specific things, I would definitely recommend looking up those things you were wondering about. But in terms of PvP, they've made quite a few changes, and combat has once again shifted quite a bit. Now, we're going to talk about those changes as we go along through the video, but as you can see in the background here, we are running the new weapon, the Greatsword, and I've been having an absolute blast with it. In terms of the build, it's still something that we are figuring out, and I believe at this point right now my Greatsword is like level 5. But as you see, we do have a fight in the background here, and we have a little 2v1 against a healer and a bow player. And you notice that as soon as I figure out that there's a healer we need to take out there, we hit him with just a beautiful set of light attacks and the evade resets, and we put in a ton of damage and land the parry just for the cherry on top there to finish off the healer. But then we are left to a 1v1 here. I dodge Calamity Counter, a very interesting skill. When it comes to Calamity Counter and parry actually wins that that fight. So you see, I actually dodged there after his Calamity, but had I parried, we would have gotten a guaranteed stun right there for sure. But just keeping up the pressure. I try to go ahead and just make sure I don't get hit by the final hit of that crosscut, because it is going to be doing a ton of damage. But with most range builds, the thing we want to do is just not allow him any time to be shooting us with his bow. So we do a really good job of keeping up the pressure. You see, I use the Calamity Counter as he's relentless rushing by us there. But trying to keep this fight in melee range as much as I can. The Tondo is going to help a lot with that. As you notice there, we have switched out Flesh for Tondo. But we get a beautiful parry in the middle of his crosscut there to interrupt and get the stun. And get a nice little finish there. But just a little bit later, we run back into a couple of players there. We go for the Tondo into the evade backwards, just give ourselves a little bit of space. Chunk this player with 2 heavy attacks to have him pretty much below half health already. But he switches around with that quick hammer stun and catches us before we can realize. And do a really good job of evading, but these 2 players come back who we were fighting earlier, and they end up taking our kill. Calamity Counter is a very interesting ability, because it has a lot different use cases that parry does, and it also can block hard stuns, as you saw right there. But again, we're going to go ahead and try to see if we can focus that healer again. We land the Tondo. The Calamity Counter actually gives us the parry into the healer. We almost 2-shot this healer with the parry. I'm not exactly sure what gear he's wearing, but right after, before we can finish off the kill, he gets a full heal there. But yeah, one of the things about this build is we are running Sundering Riposte on our Rapier. We're trying to go for a rend heavy setup here, and again we hit him with a chunky heavy. It looks like another yellow player falls up to get the finish there off of that kill, and we do get taken out there. But that's the idea behind the setup. As we level up the Greatsword a little bit more, by this point I have Skyward Slash. Greatsword has quite a few ways of applying rend, and Skyward Slash is a pretty consistent way. So Skyward plus a 24% rend from our riposte is going to open up a lot of damage for us on this build. So a very interesting setup, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about it once I get it kind of finalized, because pretty much everything that I'm running in this video in terms of gear, I'm going to end up switching out. So we'll kind of just talk about the build as we go over some gameplay here. But we have a fight here against a medium armor, it looks like Spear and Greatsword player right now. One of the things that you may have noticed is there has been quite a bit of lag, so we try to go ahead and react to his sweep there. We do end up landing the parry and finishing him off anyways, but that's one of the things you're going to notice quite a bit during a lot of these fights, is it's going to look like I'm just literally not reacting to anything, but it's been something that's been going on with the server. Trying to rely on your dodge as an iframe has been something that's been rather unreliable. So you're going to see me just eat a bunch of stuns to the face a lot here, but we have got into another little 1v1 here with his buddy. You see, he kind of teleports behind the pillar there, and that's what I mean. There was quite a bit of a lag as soon as you got anywhere close to prime time. So we, with that in mind, tried to play with PvP and not get too frustrated at things. But with him kind of reeling back into reality here, we jump back onto him here. Looks like he's running a light sword and shield build, so while we are able to put in quite a bit of damage, he can also pretty much one-shot us. So we have to try and make sure we don't get hit by anything. But we land the 2-hit combo of the Skyward, land the parry and chunk him, get him very low, and as he goes for the shield rush there, we just clip him with the tail end of that Greatsword and finish him off there for 2 really nice 1v1s. But yeah, the Greatsword is an absolute blast. It essentially is a giant slayer, is what I've been referring to it as, because you just have the ability not only to open up damage for other weapons, but just absolutely crush people if they allow you to get heavy attacks in. Now, in addition to the lag, one of the things that made playing Rapier a little bit frustrating these first couple of days has been the slew of nerfs that the weapon has got. One of which being parry, not having stun immunity, but it also has had its recovery frames changed. As you see, we get absolutely destroyed there by taking that shield bash to the face and not being able to react. But they added a delay to parry to now, even if you land a parry on an opponent, there is a, I believe, 20 frame delay before you're actually able to do any action. So that's why you saw when I landed the parry, there is a slight moment there to where you can't actually dodge behind and start your heavy attack. Now, there is still enough time to roll and get that heavy, as you see right here. But it does pose some issues, especially when you're fighting against multiple opponents. Out of all of the nerfs that came to Rapier, honestly, most of them are not that bad. The one to parry is the only one to where I feel if you actually land a parry and a stun on the opponent, I feel like you should be rewarded for that. So the 20 frame delay or any delay shouldn't really be there if you are able to actually land a parry, in my opinion. But it isn't really a game-breaking bug or anything. Rapier still maintains its identity, but it's definitely something to be aware of when you're fighting. But this clip here kind of gives you an idea of the setup. We're kind of going for a kind of like a Blade Master kind of setup here, where we are fully committed to melee range here, and if you can stick on people with your aggression, the Rapier and the Greatsword actually have quite a bit of synergy, where you can switch in between weapons rather smoothly and line up combos, as you saw there. And then on the defensive end, as you can see in a fight against a very powerful bruiser build like a medium hammer great axe, we are more than able to hold our own because of all of those defensive options that Greatsword gives us. So this is a build that I'm very excited to work on here. I believe definitely once we can at least get some perks for the Greatsword, it'll definitely start looking more like a build, because as of this point in all of these clips here, we still don't really have a single perk for Greatsword. Even with that being the case though, we still were able to get a really nice amount of PvP in. But you see, as I mentioned before about the lag, we try to go for the dodge. You actually see a little bit of it there, but again, just trying to rely on your dodge as an iframe was just not happening right now. But we open him up with the Greatsword, break his guard, go in for the swap to the Rapier, and that's one of the things about this combo that I really like. Skyward applying such a heavy rend can either lead into us trying to go for a parry to then go for the max damage, or just go for an evade combo. And we get him very low, but he does heal up with a potion here. But we jump right back onto him, land the Skyward again. We don't get hit by the knockback there and we take him down. Now, we do have a couple of more fights here. We run back into the spear and sword and shield user a little bit later in our quest. We go for a really, really beautiful calamity counter to not only block the shield bash, but to knock away the spear player to give us a little bit of breathing room there. Land the parry, but we start to get kind of bopped on by a couple of players here. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can make a little bit of distance, get a really, really nice relentless rush through them there just to buy myself a little bit of time. Just barely dodge that leap, but the player wasn't flagged. But we do land a beautiful parry, get that huge rend on the opponent, land a very, very, very chunky backstab, and get that spear player very, very low. That right there is the reason why I wanted to use Tondo, because it essentially, as I mentioned, extends the range of the Rapier, and we're able to pick up that kill as we go down there. But jumping back into another little fight as we respawn here with the light sword and shield user, knowing that we can't really react to that shield bash, you're going to see me doing things a lot like that, which is preemptively going for riposte and stuff, because if we get caught by a shield bash, it's going to equal a lot of damage. We end up breaking his guard there and putting him on the back foot, but as his friend does respawn, we are pretty much forced to push him away with the calamity, and again we're forced on the back foot. But we do land a beautiful parry into both of them. Again, having Sundering Riposte is just so much damage on top of pre-rending them up with the Greatsword, and you see we end up just straight up blowing up that sword and shield user. We turn our attention right back to the spear, do a good job of spacing out, and he does end up sweeping onto the other side of him, or the other side of us, so he does miss that sweep. But we cancel the parry and get another finish on him there. People are just constantly respawning here though, as you can see, and we're just pretty much not able to get any breathing room after a fight. As soon as we finish off one person, somebody else kind of jumps in, and we're kind of fighting a mage now. Parrying flamethrower is another thing they added, which is actually pretty interesting for those fights, but we do end up going down there as we can't fight forever. But yeah, considering we have pretty much no gear or any perks for our Greatsword, and we are still leveling it up, this build is already feeling amazing. So once we get it a little bit closer to what I have in mind, I will definitely be updating you as we go. All these fights were streamed live on Twitch, which I'll leave a link for in the description, but I'm going to leave you guys here with a pretty nice little 1v1 I got. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.